Well, I mean, you had your going away party in 1997, but you didn't actually move to LA until 2006.
Yeah, I
mean, that kind of, I guess, derailed your plans.
It derailed everything. It brought back a bunch of insecurities because in many ways, I can move through my community without any fear of anything because nobody wanted to do anything because Rodney was there. Like, I knew that. So that brought back immediate insecurities in my city. People didn't feel like they could get at me, but I felt like at any point I would have to handle myself because that's all I had left. Then I just didn't have the wherewithal at the time to really gather my thoughts on being focused because I was so distracted. I was depressed. I started heavily drinking. And so I just stayed home to figure out a way of building stability back home to give me like some time to figure it out. And honestly, like this hustle, I didn't understand, eating what you kill. I needed to have a job because we grew up knowing that you got to find you a good job that pays you every 2 weeks. And so there was a lot of fear there and just going out and figuring out by myself.
Okay, so then by 2006, you actually do move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You started out as a youth counselor in the probation department.
Back home.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So my trajectory of jobs, I got a job working at my high school that I took the GED from. Did that for 2 years. They started really, and when I look at my career now in media and I look at all the job experiences I've had, I've been grateful to have had careers like working in education where I learned, the world of education. And what really came out of that was my fighting for the workers that the union was trying to get rid of. And so I took the school on, I took the union on, and I ended up losing my job, but then I ended up becoming a probation officer and working in my community because I wanted to help at-risk kids who've been victimized, kids who've been, victims of their community and circumstances. Did that for 3 years, but I found most of my career was trying to change the system because I realized quickly that the judicial system and places where they incarcerate people is a business, and that of course, years now I found out it's the trajectory of slavery and all that, but mass incarceration, the problems there, I didn't really get it then because my interests and efforts were to try to help these kids, but I was always fighting with the system. So I ended up fighting with the system, getting fired from there. And it was funny because the chief of probation said to me, I'm going to get rid of you now, I'll pay for it later. And I ended up suing them, I ended up settling, and I ended up getting hired by the union who saw me fighting them. And I did that career for 11 years, and that's what brought me to LA. Okay,
so you're in LA and you work, I guess, you're working at Kaiser Permanente?
Yes, so I'm the union,
the whole union thing
with
everything.
Kaiser, yes.
But then by 2009, you decided to leave that whole career path.
Correct.
And jump into entertainment.
Yeah, I didn't just choose to do it to jump into entertainment. I was forced out, but it was my choice to leave. And there's going to be a connection between my choice to leave a current situation with this, because over my life, I have built fundamental principles that I live by. In my relationships, I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal. There's just 3 things that I don't do, and I don't allow somebody that I'm a partner with to do. In my personal life, you have to stand and believe in stuff. I believe in certain principles, and fighting for the underdog has always been my thing in education, in probation, in the union. So when I got here, our parent union took control of the local union because we were fighting against some of their ways of taking control away from the workers. So they took us all to a hotel. And they gave us 1 day to decide, do you keep your career? But if you keep your career, you have to lie to the workers. You have to go out and say this, or you have to quit today. That was the choice that I was given. And mind you, this is I'm 25 years old. I'm living in Hollywood, Burbank. I got a Mercedes. I'm getting $10,000 a month. I'm rich, very successful, having come from a GED, drug addicted mother, foster home. I made it, to all standards, I made it. But now I'm faced with this choice. Do you stay and lie to the workers and keep this cush job, or do you leave? I left with no plan. I literally had nothing. So I left. At the time, though, I had been moonlighting at night with different celebrities and built relationships with people. So I'd be like, okay, if you want to book so-and-so, let me call them and see if you do it 10%, $30,000 off of $300,000. So I started just finessing and hustling. So I started kind of consulting or whatever. And that was kind of my thing when I left.
Right, because I guess you met Alex Avant, who is the son of Clarence Avant.
Yeah.
legendary guy.
Yes.
And he kind of saw some of the potential and started to work
He
with you a
did,
little
but
bit.
I always laugh with Alex because as much as he's a visionary, and I love you, Alex, as much as his family are visionaries, and he is a power player, he helped me to see that I needed to become the brand so I could own and control and build it, but he didn't want to manage me. And I was like, yo, I'm offended, but I think it's because, my tact when I got in the game was very much, I said whatever I wanted to say, and everybody was fair play. And so I think for him it was a little too reckless, but he never wanted to manage me. And I remember him saying like, yo, these agencies ain't gonna sign you because you're just too messy. And I'd be like, yo, I'm a reflection of the community. I'm out here doing the Lord's work. How dare you? But yeah, he did. He was the first one to take me to dinner and say like, how do you become the brand, and force me to see myself.
Right. And rest in peace to his mother, I guess, who got killed in a home invasion.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And, Alex, if you know him and you know the family, they're a very close family. I know his mother and father are very well respected. That was, I think, after Pop Smoke, of course, that was like really like a big indication that Hollywood and LA has just lost its fucking mind. You know what I mean? Like this woman was, I think in her late 80s or early 90s. I mean, she's very well respected in a nice home, in a nice community, great background, friends with the Obamas. I mean, everything about them is pristine, and they're just a great reflection for our culture. So for her to get killed like that so randomly it was crazy. But I called and checked on him, and he's working through it. And I saw him recently, and he seems to be doing okay.
Good to hear, man. That was a messed up story.
Yeah.
Well, your mom, I guess, gave birth to another son when you were 17.
Yeah.
And to avoid him getting into the system, you ended up adopting him.
Yes.
So you became a father at age 25.
Yes. And nobody's ever bought me one Father's Day gift, But yeah, I did. I took him into my home, and I know and understand mental health now more. I'll be honest with you. I was stressed out this morning, anxiety, Googling what medicine do I take for anxiety, texting my doctor I need some for anxiety. And this has been like, this kind of therapeutic because I'm actually talking through a lot of shit. But, I didn't really understand like my mom's psychological stuff, right? And how she had a crack baby and his psychological stuff and the chemical and dependency issues or whatever. And I didn't understand all that. I just understand be good, don't steal shit, don't break shit, eat your food, go to school, do your homework, clean your room. Like that's just all I knew because I wasn't parented. I didn't have a parent really, beyond 7 or 8 years old parenting me. And so bringing him in my house was extremely chaotic. I had a relationship that was very toxic. I had him who was very out of control. I put him in the best private school. I bought him whatever he wanted. I took him to trips everywhere around the country. But I was realizing I was giving him love by giving him stuff, not necessarily giving him love because I didn't know how to give it.
Yeah.
And he just was out of control.
Right. Because at one point he threw a Molotov cocktail on the freeway and set the freeway on fire.
So I'm driving home from work and I'm just listening to my music and I look on the freeway and I see it in the distance. I see this large cloud of smoke, but it's generally in the area where I live, and something over said, he did it. So I called the house and I said, so my boyfriend at the time, Josh, he answered me. I said, Josh, where's Paul? He goes, he's sitting right here. I said, has Paul been outside? And he goes, no. I said, can you look out the window and tell me if there's smoke? And he looks and he goes, oh my God, the whole freeway is on fire. And I'm like, so Paul's not been outside? And he goes, no. Listen to him ask you, has he been outside at all within the last 30 minutes? For 5 minutes. He goes, well, he walked the dog. Well, that's when the fuck he did it. So I get Paul on the phone. I go, Paul, did you burn the freeway? No. You always blaming me for things. No. Paul, I know you did it. As I'm getting closer now, the freeway's blocked off. Can't get off the off-ramp. There's helicopters pouring water on the palm trees. The whole freeway is on fire. The side of the apartment's on fire.
Wow.
I'm livid because I'm stuck in this car talking to them, knowing that he had something to do with it. He says he didn't, but whatever. So I get there. The fire chief comes to the apartment. The neighbor saw him throw the cocktail over the fence and light the whole thing on fire.
Right. That was the end of your fatherhood at that point.
That day.
Yeah.
That was
that
it.
day.
That was it. But it wasn't even still my choice. He heard me call the social worker and say he's going away. Like he's out. They ended up arresting him. He got out, came back home, No, back up. He didn't get arrested. What he did was he went in his room, he jumped out the window, ran to the park. Family's having a picnic, takes their keys, walks to the parking lot, finds their car from the alarm, steals their car, can't drive, drives off, crashes the car, gets locked up. And I told the people, keep him. I'm done.
Okay. Well, then in 2012, your mom passes away.
Yes.
How was that? Was there sadness? Was there, the relationship was never great to begin with? You know, now I don't have to deal with this person anymore. I mean, I know people in your situation have had these types of mothers, and it's always a very strange feeling when that person passes away.
Recently, this woman wrote a book called "I'm Happy That My Mother Is Dead," and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she said that." Because I don't even want to open the book because I don't even want to know that she's sick enough to be happy that her mom's dead. But I also understand the jarring of creating a title, you know, whatever. God must have forgot about me. Whatever makes people want to read it. My cousin Anitra she's the director of nursing in the hospital my mother was in. She called me and she said, "Hey, you may want to come and check on your mom because she's in the ICU and it doesn't look good." I had just been with her the week before, visiting her in the nursing home. And for the first time in my whole life, I left and I bought her some flowers and I had them because we had a conversation. And I was always trying to find a way of giving her closure because I knew she wasn't doing well. And I wanted her to be at peace. And she was always in turmoil over what I thought about her parenting and what I felt about her. And, you know, was I mad at her or did I blame her for stuff? And so I visited her and I said to her, "Oh no." She said, "I did the best that I can. I did the best I can." She was crying. So, okay. So I left. I stopped at this flowers place. I bought her some flowers. I had them delivered with a card that said, "I forgive you and I understand you did the best that you can." So a week later, I go back to LA. A week later, I get a call from my cousin Anitra, or maybe like 4 or 5 days later. And she says, "Hey, your mom ended up in the hospital and she's in the ICU. You should probably come and see her because it doesn't look good." So I'm like, "Well, can you go look at her chart and like run it down to me?" Because I was next to Ken. Tell me like, what does it say? So she went and read her chart and she called and she was like, "Yeah, you should probably come home." So I go home. My mom and my sister are fighting at the time. And then my brother is not living with me. He's in the community. And he's 18. And so we go to the hospital, and I walk in the hospital with her, and I said to her, you know, she was in a coma before I got there. She awoke when we got there. And my sister came in and, you know, she was just crying and just apologetic. I'm sorry, you know, just trying to make up for lost time. At this point, I had closure. Like I had released it all. I got it all out my system. It was emotional because she's passing and it's still your mother. So I was emotional and my sister was crying and my brother, of course, was having a really hard time because he had never experienced death. By this time, I had seen my brother die. I had been seeing my friends die. I'd been to so many funerals. I'd been shot. And so I was a little numb to it, but, you know, I was more emotional because they were emotional. But I was the big brother, so I had to kind of hold it together. And my mother said to me, you know, "It's just really important to me that I know you forgive me." I said, "I forgive you." And I genuinely forgave her. And it hit me that she said she did the best that she could. So I had to have some compassion for drug addiction that was out of her control, molesting, mental health that was out of her control. So I had to put my experience aside, not to invalidate it, but to just say, okay, that happened to me. But for her, I have to release her by forgiving her because that inherently is going to release me. So I said, "I forgive you." And so she got that. And then I said, "You know, you and my sister, you guys need to talk," because they had fallen out. And so I left them in the room by themselves. And then I had an emotional moment. Then I came back in and she said, you know, "Just make sure you take care of your brother." And that was hard because he took it the worst and she was afraid for him. And we knew that she was afraid for him because he didn't have the skill building to be able to survive, you know, and now he's 18. So we said our goodbyes, whatever. And then she literally died the next day.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss, but there's a lot more to that statement, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.